And if ever in your life you don't want to miss a downshift, this is it. When you're climbing an ice hill. Hey everybody, it's White Cheddar. I'm in Guyman, Oklahoma, and I'm taking my 30. Hey, how about you, YouTube? White Cheddar coming back at you. It's getting cold out here. I'm up here in Guyman, Oklahoma, up in the Oklahoma Panhandle, and it's a really pretty nice day yesterday. It was my day off, so it got up to about 60. I was outside pedaling with the dog and everything else. It was nice in the middle of January to have one of those days, but unfortunately, no, the weather's fixing to change again. By the time y'all are watching this video, we'll have a winter storm be rolling in, and it's not the first one this year. This will be the third storm that I've had to drive through. So, I want to talk a little bit about wintertime driving and old man winter and all the fun stuff he throws at us. It was it was about a week ago. We got that big storm that went all the way through Oklahoma, Texas Panhandle, all the way into Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee. It just went through the whole country. So there's a lot less knuckleheads out on the road now, because I know I passed several jackknife tractor trailers, and I pray for them every time I see it. It's just one of those things that you have to learn how to deal with if you're going to be a professional. And so yeah, I've had 23 years of driving through winter, and I've made it through safely every time, because I follow the one basic rule that you gotta follow is just slow the fuck down. Just slow down. That's all you gotta do. For instance, last week in that big storm that came through, I start my night at about 10 o'clock at night. So I traveled for about an hour and a half up north, and it was drizzling. It was raining a little bit. It was enough to, if you're standing out in it, you'd get wet. So it was a heavy mist, kind of a drizzle. So then it's like 34 degrees when I get up there. So I start unloading my trailer at my first stop. It takes me about an hour and a half, 2 hours. But during that hour and a half, 2 hours, the temperature dropped down to 15 degrees. Had an Arctic blast just come down through Canada and mixed with that warm Pacific air right in the middle of where I was at. So by the time I was done unloading that stores and got everything loaded up and ready to go, there was a sheet of ice. I mean, it was a 1/4 inch sheet of ice in the parking lot. All the metal on my trucks got froze. The latches started getting frozen. So I knew what I was dealing with right off the bat, and it puts a pit in your stomach every time you got to do it. But a lot of folks, will not drive on ice, and I prefer not to. If I can get away with not having to do it, then I can't. If you can't steer your rig, then you got no business being out there. But I've been around for a bit, and so I pulled down to the truck stop, and there's a little hill in Woodward you got to go down, and I start going down this little hill 5 miles an hour, and I'm breaking traction, and it's just a solid sheet. So kind of coast down that hill, get to the truck stop, and then kind of hang out there for about an hour and watch the radar, because what I noticed was about an hour away or an hour and a half away was another band of snow that was going to come through, and it looked like it was real heavy snow, and it was going to dump an inch or two of snow. So I thought, well, I'll just hang out in this parking lot, stay warm, get me a coffee, and get prepared, because with that snow coming down, that'll give you a little bit of traction. Because when I left that truck stop, when you leave that truck stop, I had to go up to Fort Supply, Oklahoma, and there's a huge hill leaving out of Woodward. The first thing you got to do is climb this huge ass hill, and it's about a mile long hill, so you can't be running 65 mile an hour on black ice and hit a hill and think you're going to. Actually, there was a couple trucks who tried, and they got stuck, and the salt trucks had to kind of work the road a little bit. They hadn't worked the roads at all. because like I said, it was a mist. And then, you know, down here in Oklahoma, they just really don't have a whole lot of man hours and the equipment and everything to take care of these roads. So when it gets slick, especially overnight. So I knew they'd be working it in the morning time, which they did. But anyways, I had to get up this hill. So it snowed, and I start, you know, I let that snow flurry pass. Actually, I left that parking lot driving 5 miles an hour, getting out of town, you know, because it's going to be 6 or 7 miles for that hill. So I'm just 5 mile an hour, 10 mile an hour, and then it starts snowing, almost white out. It's just dumping snow down, and I can barely see. My windshield wipers are barely keeping up. You know, defrost is on high. Just doing everything I could to see the road, see where I was at, and make sure, you know, I was prepared for this hill. So I get to this hill, and yeah, I grab a couple gears. I get it up to about 45 mile an hour. And you know, probably about 6th gear. I got a 10 speed, so you know, I'm probably, you know, 6th gear, maybe in the 7th. But I got them RPMs running high, and I'm coming up on that hill. And if ever in your life you don't want to miss a downshift, this is it. You know, when you're climbing an ice hill. So I get going, my RPMs start dropping, start kind of bogging down. Boom, hit that shift, right in gear, back. Still got traction, still climbing. RPMs are back up, and they start dogging down. By the time I made it to the top of that hill, I was probably doing maybe 10 mile an hour. But that was enough. I had just enough traction to get up to the top of that hill. So now I'm kind of on a plateau. And, you know, it's just little easy rolling hills all the way to the next town, Fort Supply. And I get to Fort Supply, it's still just coming down massive snow. So I pull in a parking lot there, check my radars again. Actually get out of the truck and go out to the highway and walk with my feet, you know, with my steel toe boots on. I feel the traction on the ground, and it's slick. It's slick as snot. And yeah, it does have a little bit of fresh powder coat on it, or powder snow on it, but it's still slick as all get. I mean, it's still a layer of black ice underneath that snow. So I decided to wait there for a little bit longer and let the sun just start coming up. Because if I'm going to end up in the field, I want somebody to at least be able to see me. Because from Fort Supply all the way up to Liberal, Kansas, ain't nothing. There ain't nothing out there. It's just rolling hills, up and down. And at the bottom of every hill is a bridge, and you got to cruise down one hill to get up the next hill. And going down a hill can be just as tricky as going up a hill, because I'm still halfway loaded. So when I'm going down a hill, my trailer is heavier than my tractor, so it's wanting to push me. It's wanting to push my tractor, you know, going down these hills. So you get to, I left the parking lot once the sun came up, and normally it takes me an hour and a half to get from Woodward to Liberal, Kansas, to drop this second store's load off. And this night it took me 5.5 hours to do that same distance, because I was driving 20 mile an hour. Maybe getting up 25, maybe touching 30 a couple times. But, you know, when you hit the bottom of that hill and you got to get back up speed to climb the next hill, just the whole way, all the way up to Liberal, Kansas. It's an increase about a mile in elevation over the whole distance, but it's just the constant hills, rolling hills. So, yeah, I just slowed down 20 mile an hour, get up to about 30 going down that hill, climb up that next hill, wipe the sweat off your brow, do it again. Probably shouldn't have. Probably just should have just shut down for 10 hours, maybe got a motel room, finished it up the next day. But we're kind of a production business, and I know that there's no load worth, you know, alive. But I felt pretty confident about I could just inch it all the way up there. And yeah, I made it up there. Along the way, I had 2 4-wheelers pass me, doing 60 mile an hour, 4-wheel drives. Out of those 2 vehicles, one of them crashed out. I seen him about 20 miles down the road, and he was all off into a cattle field. You know, went through the barbed wire fence, tore it all up. His windows were all busted out. There was another vehicle there helping him, so I didn't stop. I just slow rolled it and, you know, said a little prayer for him. Then I get up closer to Liberal, and I see 3 or 4 jackknife semi trucks. I see one semi truck that had rolled over into a ditch, just went straight. The road was curving, and it just went straight off and rolled off to the side. So unfortunate day for that driver, but it's probably going too fast, you know. And the whole time I'm driving up there 20 to 30 mile an hour, just barely getting by, you know, and those two cars passed me on that. Out of 5 hours, two cars. You know, there wasn't nobody out. Like, I probably shouldn't have been out there. But anyway, out of those cars that passed, they were going too fast. I mean, there's no hurry. If you're going to be out in it, if you're going to brave it, if you're going to do it, then slow the hell down. And the other word of advice I give to new drivers is don't drive beyond your ability. Like, I've been driving a long time, and it's easy for me to say that, you know, but I've felt my truck lose traction, you know, 5 dozen different times. I've been in, you know, rain, hail, sleet, snow, black ice. You know, I've been in all of it, and I know the reaction and what's happening with my rig. I've just been in this seat so long that I can feel it, but it doesn't exempt me from jackknife or you know, I had an angel on my shoulder. You know, I had someone looking over me that day yet again, but don't drive beyond your ability. If this is your first year driving a truck and it's wet or iced, or you know, you don't feel confident, you get out, you check the road with your own feet, you feel that there's no traction at all, just don't drive. Just call the dispatch, just tell them, no, sorry, you know, I know it's going to put us behind, or I know, you know, we're going to be late, or it may keep me from a couple $100, but I'm not going to drive beyond my ability. And I've had to tell employers that in the past. There's been times I've turned down driving because just wasn't worth it at the time. You know, it was, you know, you're hauling, especially when I worked for the beer company. I was like, it's just fucking beer, you know. But we usually had a pretty good heads up on it, because when you sell beer, especially to a college town, when they shut that town down for 2 days because of snow and ice, those stores will be gutted. They will drink every case of beer in that town. So you had to plan ahead, stack up displays, you know, to make it to where if you couldn't run, it's no big deal. You just, you know, you work on Saturday. You just work an extra day and get caught up. So I've told employers before, like, I'm not driving in that bullshit. I'll just come in and work Saturday, push everybody back a day. But with this company, it's a little different. We're kind of a production base. You know, cows don't quit producing milk, and you know, we've got a lot. All they ask is just, you know, go slow. Just go slow. They don't care if I drive 5 miles an hour. You know, eventually you're gonna run out of clock. It's no big deal. They'll get you a motel. That day I worked, you know, I ended up working about 20 hours that day. Kind of get away with it with the inclement weather and whatnot. By the time I got to, you know, got done with Liberal, got over to Guyman, it was, the roads were pretty good. So I decided just to drop down south and head down south into Texas and then come back in, because the way the storm was moving was kind of to the east, northeast. So I knew it wasn't that as bad down in Texas, so I went that way. It was a little bit longer, 30 minutes longer, but it was safer. I didn't have to go back over all that ice and stuff I'd gone over when I came up this way. So, and also new drivers, you got to be prepared to be in an accident. I seen one post on a Facebook group. We have excellent meteorologists down here that get out in their 4-wheel drives, and they actually do reports and whatnot. And seen a couple prime trucks, a couple other trucks that had jackknife, and this one lady driving for Prime, she had jackknife, and her truck was all out of shape. It was going to need a tow truck to get out of where she was at. But her truck wouldn't start. She's there. It's, you know, 10 degrees outside, wind's blowing, it's snowing, it's, you know, and you know, one of the meteorologists had stopped and picked her up and took her to the local truck stop to where at least she could stay warm. But, you know, make sure that you have water with you, you have a blanket with you. When I run on nights like that, I've got thermals on. I've got my regular uniform, a good jacket, good water-resistant jacket. I got a poncho. But also I carry a backpack that carries an extra pair of clothes, underwear, socks, wool socks. Carries a whole nother set of clothes for me in case I just get soaked or I'm out in the snow and I'm having to work. I can switch clothes when I need to and get back warm. I don't have to wear wet clothes all day. I always make sure I got enough food on me to get by. Of course, my cell phones are always fully charged, and I carry chains in the truck. I did talk to my night manager just to let him know, like, hey, this is going to take me a minute, or I might have to call it. I don't know. I haven't been down the road. Of course, he tells me, first thing they always tell you is, oh, just throw the chains on, you know. And I'm like, that's not going to help me steer, you know. That'll help me get out of the truck stop, because I was spinning tires in the truck stop just on flat ground. It's, you know, you have to work your weight and your momentum and whatnot. I could get a little bit of traction. That wasn't a big deal. It was the steering. You know, you can't lose steering. You can't chain up your steer tires. I guess you could. I've never heard of it, but if you gotta do that, like, I didn't even chain up that day. I left the chains off because it wasn't going to give me what I needed. But that's all they ask, is just to go slow, and once you run out of clock, if you want to get a motel, that's fine. You can finish up the next day. They don't put any pressure to force dispatch. It's, you know, we carry plenty of fuel in our tanks. That's another thing. Make sure you got plenty of fuel in your tanks when you're driving in the winter. Don't let it get down to a quarter tank. And also, if you live farther north, use your additives, anti-gel stuff in it. But the main thing is just to slow down and don't drive beyond your ability. When I was younger, when I worked for FDF in the oil field, I had one day that it wasn't an accident. Here's what my safety guy always taught us: is it's hearses, nurses, and hooks. If they got to call one of those three people, you're probably going to lose your fucking job. If not, you're going to have to pay for the damages you did to your truck. So hearses, of course, if somebody passes away or if you're in a bad accident, God bless, that don't ever happen, but it could. You're probably going to lose your job or your CDL. If you got to call a nurse, if there's an accident or injury that you caused or somebody else caused, that's another, you know, problem with your professional career right there that you're going to have to deal with. And the last one is hooks. If they got to call a tow truck and pull you out of the ditch, that's a recordable incident. You're probably going to lose your job or have to pay for damages on that truck, and it's just no bueno. So one day back at FDF, I was driving, and we had a pre-fill. So there's nobody out on this location, this oil field location. We got to haul loads of sand out there, and I'm on my last load of sand headed out there, and the weather's getting real bad. It's getting icy, it's getting snowy. So I get it there about 5 miles from location, and I pull off the main highway onto a country road. Out here in Oklahoma, we just call them country road, and it was a blacktop, and it was like, go 3 miles down, turn right, and go 2 miles to location. Easy enough instructions. I had already done it a couple times, but I remembered at the end of that 3 miles when I had to turn right, you came up on a little hill and went down about a 5% grade. It wasn't much at all, but it was about a 5% grade to a four-way stop sign. And these are just country roads, blacktop. So there's a four-way stop sign at the bottom of that hill, and then you got to turn right to go on to location. So you're going down a hill and you got to turn right, and there's black ice, or it's frozen rain. I think it was sleet or frozen. So anyways, I get to that hill, and I'm going down half a mile an hour, just barely granny gearing it down this hill. Get over to the far left as I can, because I'm going to try to swing this as wide as I can, because you want to try to keep your steer tires you want to try to keep your tractor trailer as straight as you can. You know, not take all the turn you can get when you're doing it. So I'm swinging it wide. I get through the intersection. I get to the road, the east-west road I'm supposed to be going down, and my trailer's falling. Then all of a sudden, I lose traction. I start sliding this way. I start sliding sideways towards the bar ditch. And I look at the bar ditch, and it's a 4 or 5 foot drop, so I can't hit it sliding going sideways. It's going to lay me over. I'm freaking. Everything's slow motion. I can recall it like anything, but I'm sliding half a mile an hour, fixing to go in this ditch. So I made the decision, crank that wheel to the left all I could, and straighten that truck back out, and ran straight into the field, as straight as I could get it, to go down that bar ditch. and into that field. So now I'm down there, I'm fucking stuck. Oh man, I'm fully loaded. I got 48,000 pounds of sand. So call my boss, and I was like, I'm stuck, man. I had to bail it into this field, and it's no, the ground's pretty hard, but I can't get traction. I've locked in. I've tried everything I can. I cannot get this out. And he tells me, well, you better get it out, because if I gotta call a tow truck, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So I was like, all right, just hold on. Maybe I can get one of the other guys. Maybe they got a tow rope, which is another good thing to have if you can afford it. Afford the storage. So I'm trying to get this thing out. I'm trying to get it straightened out. Well, I noticed it's a four-way intersection. Well, there used to be an old highway or an old turn, but it was no longer used. It was like a big long curve, and I was straight in it. So I was like, I just need to get my drive tires up on, and it was only about a half a foot higher than where I was at right there. I was like, I just got to get one of my drives on that, and I'll start getting traction, and I'll get out. So I'm rocking this motherfucker back and forth, and snow everywhere. There's mud everywhere. I've had like 6 other of my buddies drive by and fucking laugh at me and point, and I'm just like, yeah, fuck y'all. It's I was stuck. And I don't know how I did. I just kept rocking, and I kept running with that truck. Good tires, probably, but I finally got one of my drive tires just barely on that. And wow, getting some traction, and get up on that little, and I didn't let off, man. Once I got it going a little bit, grabbed another gear, and fucking and got it all the way back onto the main road. So, got it back up on the main road. Look back. Mud ruts, half a foot deep. Luckily, it wasn't a farmer's field, or it didn't cause any damage. There was no fences that were broke. My rig was okay. There was nothing broken with my rig. I got out of that fucking mess, and I called my boss, and I was like, I got it out. I got it out, man. I finally got it out, and told him how I got it out and everything. And he was like, well, you're still hired. So I got down location, got that load off, and I went to the house. We went to the house because that pre-fill wasn't going to kick off for another day, so I got to make it back home. But that was nothing. Had to drive empty all the way back, but I pressed my ability that day. I shouldn't have been out there. I was only maybe a year into oil field hauling, and of course I had other buddies I was running with, and they're helping me, teaching me. I was learning. I was getting a good feel for everything, and I'd already drove 500,000 miles already, so I was no stranger to the truck and driving in slick conditions. But that day I probably should have gave up that $200 load, but got it off, got paid. You know just lucky, I guess. But those things are going to happen. And it could not even be you. It could just be somebody else that doesn't know. That's why I said there's a few knuckleheads off the road after these first 2 storms that have blown through. So probably won't see a whole lot more this winter time. But I don't know. This is our 3rd storm. We'll see how it goes. If you're enjoying this podcast, I appreciate you watching. This is episode 4. Like I say, this will be dropping on Monday, so I plan to release 3 videos a week. I got a new live that I'm going to do on my days off, and I'm just going to call it the reset. And it's pretty much going to be from my home office, where I can get a good shower, shave, sit down, maybe have an adult beverage, and bullshit with you guys on a live, and y'all can ask me anything, or if you want to be on the show, holler at me. Get on my Discord server. The link's in the description below. I use my Discord to organize all my communication and talking with other drivers and sharing information and memes and all that fun stuff. So make sure you check out that Discord server, because that's where it's at. That's how we I got several different Discords that I talk and I jump on, but y'all hop on there. I appreciate you watching the videos. I hope you're learning a little bit. Like I said, 23 years is a long time to be driving, so just looking back on all these days and all these miles and stuff, you're gonna have some bad days out there, but don't let it get to you. Just go slow, take your time, get through it. but most importantly, keep your head on a swivel and keep the shiny side up. And I'll talk to you later.